Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself face to face with the younger version of you. Perhaps with a curious look, perhaps with a wounded expression, perhaps only with that silence that only childhood knows. This encounter is neither fantasy nor poetic metaphor. It is a real phenomenon at the quantum level of consciousness. What we once were remains inscribed within us, not as dead past, but as a living frequency shaping the present. Bruce Lipton reminds us that every experience and every belief lived imprints a signature in the body, in the cells, in the vibrational field we carry. These imprints become filters, determining not only how we see the world, but also how the world sees us. Biology responds to these emotional memories with chemical reactions that can sustain either limitations or new possibilities. Joe Dispenza reinforces that the integration of the inner child is not only therapeutic, it is applied neuroscience. Each time we embrace the part of us that was once rejected, the nervous system finds new connections. The brain reorganizes, synapses open, and suddenly reality seems different because we literally begin to perceive in a new way. But the most common mistake is believing we must leave behind who we once were, that we need to erase, deny, or forget what wounded us. This movement, however well-intentioned, creates inner fragmentation. And fragmentation always sends confusing signals to the quantum field. The universe does not respond to pretty words we speak, but to the coherence or incoherence we sustain in silence. That is why this meeting with the younger self is not an invitation to nostalgia. It is a practice of integration. It is the opportunity to bring close the part of you that never stopped dreaming, that carried spontaneity, sensitivity, and intuition. When past and present stop fighting, energy unifies, the field aligns, and the future opens in new possibilities. There are moments when life places us before situations that awaken disproportionate reactions. A fear without apparent cause, a sudden insecurity, a sadness that appears without warning. These responses do not belong only to the adult you are today. They carry the voice of someone older, the child you once were and who still inhabits your nervous system. That younger self never disappeared. It is still present in the body's memories, in emotional reflexes, in the silent stories that repeat in our minds. Each time we feel something intense and automatic, it is as if this child were pulling us by the hand, asking to be heard. The encounter with this part of yourself does not happen only in meditation or spiritual practices. It reveals itself in the small scenes of daily life, in the fear of taking risks, in the discomfort of exposure, in the constant need for approval. The inner child speaks through symptoms and silences, waiting for the adult to finally stop and listen. This encounter is, above all, a recognition. Recognizing that you are not broken nor divided. Recognizing that within you exists a version that tried to survive as best it could, with the resources it had. Recognizing that everything which once seemed weakness was, in truth, an attempt at protection. And when this recognition happens, something deep shifts. The distance between who you were and who you are begins to dissolve. The possibility of dialogue, integration, and walking together arises. It is not about correcting this child, but about embracing them as an essential part of your vibrational field. Many times, we look at our emotional scars as signs of failure. We carry shame for our falls, fear of rejection, resentment over losses. But each mark that life has left on us is not testimony of defeat, but evidence of survival. They are records that, even in the face of pain, you kept moving forward. Bruce Lipton reminds us that every experience is recorded not only in the mind, but also in the body. Stress, joy, rejection, or love translate into cellular chemistry, altering our biology. This means your scars are not only psychological memories, they have become part of your vibrational identity, shaping the field you emit. But instead of condemning these marks, we can see them as proof of resilience. They show that you have already faced storms and survived. Each loss that seemed unbearable revealed in practice your capacity to keep breathing, even when everything seemed to collapse. Science and spirituality converge at this point. What you interpret as weakness, the quantum field recognizes as frequency. If you relate to your scars with shame, you transmit contraction. If you look at them with gratitude and respect, you transmit expansion. The signal the universe receives is not in what happened, but in how you interpret it now. Thus, your scars stop being open wounds and become maps. Maps of who you have become, of everything you have crossed, of all the times you chose to keep going. Instead of weight, they can become a compass, reminding you that if you have made it this far, you can cross what is yet to come. Linear time tells us that the past is behind us, but consciousness does not obey the same clock. Even though the body's cells renew every few years, emotional imprints remain active, sustaining a frequency that shapes how we perceive and live the present. The past is not dead, it vibrates within us like background music. Bruce Lipton shows that past experiences turn into subconscious beliefs that modulate cellular biochemistry. This means that even without conscious memory, emotional imprints keep sending signals that the body reads as reality. It is as if we are constantly responding to an invisible script. Joe Dispenza adds, "The body does not distinguish memory from current experience. When we relive an old emotion, the nervous system reacts as if it were happening again. In this way, the past remains active, shaping not only our reactions, but also how we attract similar situations. This explains why sometimes in the face of a new opportunity, we feel old fear. It is not the present that threatens, but the vibrational echo of past experiences still stored in the system. Recognizing this pattern is the first step to releasing the living frequency of the past. And here lies the transformative point. If the past continues vibrating, it can also be updated. We do not need to erase memories, but we can re-signify their frequency. When we look at a painful memory with new awareness, we change the energetic signature it carries, and the field responds to the new tone. Many believe that true healing happens when we leave behind who we once were. The temptation to erase memories, reject pain, and distance ourselves from the inner child seems logical. But in practice, it only creates fragmentation. Every part rejected remains active, asking for attention through emotional and physical symptoms. Integration is different from abandonment. To integrate is to extend your hand to that version of you who once suffered, erred, or believed they were not enough. It means recognizing that they did what they could with the resources they had, and that today you can offer what was once missing: safety, understanding, and compassion. Bruce Lipton reminds us that subconscious beliefs act like programs. If you reject a part of yourself, you keep the program running in the background, reinforcing your biology and your vibrational field. Integration, however, interrupts the cycle, bringing coherence to the system and freeing energy that was trapped in trying to hide. In spirituality, this movement is seen as a return to wholeness. When we accept our story without denying chapters, we create a unified field. And the field responds to unity with clarity and expansion. It is as if the universe finally understood the real signal we are emitting. Integration instead of abandonment is an act of compassion. It is telling your younger self, you no longer need to fight alone, now we walk together. And when this union happens, the feeling is not of loss, but of reunion. It is the heart reclaiming forgotten parts of itself, and in doing so, strengthening its emission in the quantum field. In quantum physics, the observer is never neutral. Their presence alters the experiment. In the same way, your younger self, with beliefs formed in childhood, acted as that primordial observer, collapsing possibilities into specific realities. The way that child interpreted the world defined the paths you walked until now. When a child believes they are not heard, they create a field where experiences of silence and invisibility tend to repeat. When they believe they must struggle excessively to be loved, they attract scenarios that confirm that struggle. Each belief acted like a lens, filtering which probabilities of the quantum field would become reality. Bruce Lipton explains that these beliefs are not just ideas, they shape biology. The body's chemistry responds to what the younger self assumed as truth. This means that for decades you may have lived within the same energetic narrative, even while wishing for something different. But if the younger self was able to collapse a reality of pain or limitation, the conscious adult can collapse another one, of expansion and freedom. Here lies the importance of integration, bringing that initial observer close, offering new lenses, and allowing the field to respond to a new state of consciousness. When you embrace your younger self and update their beliefs, you are not just healing memories. You are altering, in real time, the point of observation that defines your reality. And this is the quantum power of integration, transforming the gaze that once limited into the gaze that now liberates. When you meet your younger self, you are not merely recalling memories, you are accessing the energetic blueprint that has shaped your life. This model is like an invisible architectural plan. It defines patterns of behavior, emotional reactions, and even the opportunities you perceive or ignore. During childhood, this blueprint was drawn from beliefs, pains, and limited interpretations. But just like any plan, it can be updated. Rewriting the energetic model does not mean erasing the past, but rather updating the vibrational codes that sustain your experience. Joe Dispenza shows us that the brain and the body are malleable. Neuroplasticity allows the creation of new connections through new emotional experiences. When you dialogue with your younger self and offer them safety and love, you are literally teaching your nervous system to emit a new signal. This updating does not happen only in the mind, but throughout the body. The heart changes its coherence, the breath finds a new rhythm, and cellular chemistry reorganizes. It is as if every cell received the message, now we are safe, now we can create something new. Rewriting the energetic model is consciously choosing a new foundation for your identity. It is the act of transforming pain into power, fear into trust, fragmentation into coherence. And when this happens, the field responds with synchronicities that confirm the new design you are now broadcasting. Much of human suffering comes from the inner war between who we were and who we are. The adult wants to move forward, but the child still carries fears. The adult seeks new horizons, but the child fears the unknown. This conflict creates noise in the vibrational field and prevents the universe from recognizing a clear signal. Coherence is born when past and present stop fighting. When you embrace the younger self, fear transforms into care, vulnerability into sensitivity, and the desire for protection into creative strength. What was once fragmentation becomes unity. Bruce Lipton reminds us that cells respond to signals of coherence. When mind and emotion are misaligned, the body enters stress. But when you unite your inner child with the conscious adult, the body recognizes this internal agreement and responds with balance. In practice, this means less anxiety, less resistance, and greater clarity in decision-making. The quantum field, which responds to your state of being, begins to receive a signal without contradictions, and thus reorganizes circumstances around you to reflect that harmony. Coherence is when you stop walking against yourself and begin to walk whole. It is when every part of your story finds a place within you. In this state, there is no longer dispute. There is a single team, emitting a unified field, ready to create new realities. Shame is one of the densest frequencies we can carry. It makes us shrink before life, believe we are unworthy, and feel we must hide parts of ourselves to be accepted. When shame dominates, the field interprets this contraction as unavailability, and reality reflects limitations and closed doors. Compassion, on the other hand, creates space. It does not deny mistakes, but embraces them as part of a learning path. Where shame says you should not be this way, compassion whispers, you did the best you could at that moment. This shift in perspective changes not only the mind, but also the body and the frequency we emit. Bruce Lipton shows that emotions are not just fleeting states, but biochemical instructions. Shame releases stress hormones, weakens the immune system, and keeps cells in defense mode. Compassion, on the other hand, generates inner safety, releases oxytocin, and creates space for cellular regeneration. In the quantum field, this difference is even clearer. Shame narrows possibilities, repeating patterns of limitation. Compassion expands, allowing new lines of reality to become accessible. It is like exchanging a dim light for a luminous beam that illuminates paths once invisible. When you look at your younger self with compassion instead of shame, something profound happens. Trapped energy is released, the heart expands, and the field receives a signal of openness. In that moment, life stops reflecting punishment and begins responding with opportunity. Much of what we carry did not begin with us. Patterns of fear, silence, scarcity, or struggle were inherited from our families, from generations who also lived trying to survive with the resources they had. These emotional memories were transmitted not only through stories, but also through energy and biology. Bruce Lipton explains that inherited beliefs and emotions modulate gene expression. This means that, even unconsciously, we can repeat behaviors and feelings of our parents, grandparents, and ancestors. The inner child often carries pains that are not only theirs, but of the lineage that preceded them. By integrating the younger self, we are not only healing an individual biography, but interrupting a collective cycle. Each time we choose compassion instead of shame, we create a new vibrational record that frees not only ourselves, but also those who came before and those who will come after. Joe Dispenza reminds us that the quantum field is interconnected. What you transform within yourself reverberates as information available in the collective field. By healing an old wound, you send a new possibility to everyone who shares that same pattern. Thus, the work with the younger self is also an act of service to life. It is offering your lineage a new frequency. It is saying to those who came before, I honor your struggle, but I choose to walk in peace. And to those who will come after, you already have permission to live differently. Deep down, your essence was never broken. What fragmented along the way were layers of beliefs, fears, and defenses built to survive. But the sensitivity, intuition, and spontaneity of your younger self remain intact, waiting only to be remembered. The child who once dreamed freely still breathes within you, perhaps silenced by experiences of rejection or criticism, but never gone. Integrating the younger self is opening the door to rediscover that vitality and allowing it to flourish in the adult you are today. Bruce Lipton shows that beliefs can alter cellular biology, but they can also be reprogrammed. When you abandon the idea of being broken and begin to perceive yourself as whole in process, the body responds. Cells shift into growth mode, the nervous system relaxes, and the field begins to reflect new possibilities. Joe Dispenza teaches that when mind and heart enter coherence, reality reorganizes to mirror that state. By reclaiming what was never broken, you emit a signal of integrity, and the universe responds with synchronicity, opening paths that once seemed impossible. To reclaim is not to fix, but to remember. It is to recognize that, despite the pain, your essence never lost the ability to create, love, and dream. When you live from this place, you no longer need to beg for acceptance or fight for validation. You simply exist in coherence, and reality adjusts to the brilliance of who you already are. Bruce Lipton shows us that subconscious beliefs shape not only perception, but cellular biology. Integrating the younger self is therefore a profound way of reprogramming this code, not through denial, but through acceptance. When you embrace the parts you tried to hide, the body and mind recognize a new internal environment, and life responds to this new frequency. Joe Dispenza adds that coherence between heart and mind collapses new realities in the quantum field. And the act of embracing your inner child is exactly that, bringing emotion, thought, and body into harmony. The adult brings clarity, the child restores vitality, and together they emit a pure signal that reorganizes reality. Change, then, is not about erasing the past or fighting against who you once were. It is about remembering that nothing in you was ever broken. It is about reclaiming your natural authenticity and transforming it into creative strength. When this integration happens, you stop operating in fragmentation and begin walking whole, with all your parts aligned. In this state, shame dissolves, compassion blossoms, and the field reorganizes. External circumstances begin to reflect what you sustain within: wholeness, trust, and coherence. The universe does not respond to stray words, but to the silent weight of the vibrational identity you embody. The final invitation is simple and profound. Close your eyes, find your younger self, and sincerely tell them, I will not abandon you anymore. We walk together. This gesture, repeated in presence, is enough to begin a new timeline. Because when you become whole, the world around you finds a new mirror through which to reorganize itself.